Welcome back, Pre-Algebra. This is Miss Tracy. We're going to talk about subtracting mixed numbers in Lesson 35. So when we calculate 54 minus 22, we subtract the tens and the units places separately. We can subtract mixed numbers very much the same way. Let's see what I said. This was 23. What we can do here is we would say 54 minus 23. We'd line them up with the right places over the top of each other. 4 minus 3 would be 1. 5 minus 2 would be 3. So our answer would be 31. Really easy to do, right? We line everything up in the place that it has to go. Well, we can subtract these the same way. Let's jump into 35.1 and let me show you how we do this. So here we want to subtract 4.5 minus 1 1/8. We subtract the fractions using common denominators. Remember we can only add mixed numbers with common denominators. We can only subtract mixed numbers with common denominators also. So the first thing I have to do is find a number that I can multiply this half by in order to get my numerator up to 8. Now I know the factors of 8 are 2 and 4. So that means I need to multiply here by 4. So 4 and 1 times 4 is 4 over 2 times 4 is 8. That brings us up to 4 and 4/8 minus 1 1/8. Well, all I have to do is subtract in the proper place value for my mixed number. By that I mean I have to subtract the whole numbers independent of the fractions. So 4 minus 1 is going to be 3. And 4 over 8, we don't do anything to the denominator, just like we don't do anything to the denominator when we add. Once we have the same denominator, we leave it alone. But we do subtract our numerator. 4 minus 1 is going to be 3, and we bring the denominator along for the ride. Another way that you might write this so that you can see it a little bit better is 4 over 4/8 minus 1 over 1/8. So we could actually see this line up a little bit better. And we could say to ourselves, 4 minus 1 is 3/8, and 4 minus 1 is 3. So we get the same answer regardless of whether we use the sentence method or the stacking method. Let's do 35.2 and see what we have here. In 35.2, we are asked to subtract 5 1/10 minus 1 and 14 over 15. Okay, so we know we have something in common here. We know we have, these are both multiples of 5, right? However, we have factors that really don't work together. Here we have 2 and 5. Those are the factors of 10. And the factors of 15 are 3 and 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So we can't reduce this by 3 to get to 5. And we can't reduce this by 2 to get to 5 as a common denominator. Those are the only common factors we have. So the only other option is to multiply by the opposite factor. So let me show you what I'm doing. The factors of 10 are 2 and 5, and the factors of 15 are 3 and 5. So we know they both are sharing this common factor, but we can't get back down to that number from either one of these because the numerators are not divisible by 5, right? We can't get it back. Like this 1 is a prime number. We can't divide it by 2 in order to divide this by 2 to get a numerator or denominator of 5. And 14 is not divisible by 3, so we can't divide the denominator by 3 to get back to 5 either. So what we're going to do instead is multiply by the opposite factor. So I'm going to multiply this fraction by 2 and this fraction by 3. Our common denominator is going to be 30. So you do not multiply the whole number. You leave the whole number alone. We're not worried about it. Instead, we say 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 10 is 30. Minus, that stays the same. And now I'm going to take this factor here, leave the whole number alone, because it has nothing to do with the denominator, right? It's already complete by itself. 2 times 14 is 28, and 2 times 15 is 30. Now they both have the same denominator, and I got there by canceling out common factors until I found the uncommon factors, and then I multiplied by the opposite. I multiplied the opposite fraction by the factor of the other term. So now I can subtract, okay? 5, you always subtract the whole numbers first. 5 minus 1 is 4. But hold on just a minute. It might be, but we cannot say 3 minus 28. That does not work. So what we have to do is borrow. We have to take one of these whole numbers away and add it back to our numerator. So I'm going to borrow 30, I'm going to add 30 back to the numerator and turn this into 4. So now I have 4 and 33 over 30 minus 1 and 28 over 30. Now if you look at this, the value of this is still the same because we can still get another whole number out of this, right? This is an improper fraction. We can still get 30 out of 33 and put it back over here. So the value of our number has not changed. It is still 5 and 3 over 30, right? It's just that we have adjusted it, we have borrowed so that we could subtract. So that's what we're going to do now. We're starting with the whole number. 4 minus 1 is 3, and 33 minus 28, that is going to be 5 over the denominator of 30. We know that 5 over 30, these are two numbers that have factors in common. So we can divide this and reduce this fraction, and the answer is going to be 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 30 divided by 5 is 6. So the answer to this question is going to be 3 1/6. All right. Okie dokie. So now we are going to look at 35.3. Let me clear this. So we are going to subtract 5 1/2 minus 2 4 over 5. All right, so the first thing we need to do is look at these two denominators. These are both prime numbers. There are no factors here. So that means we're just going to multiply by the opposite denominator. So this fraction is going to be multiplied by 5 over 5. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 times 2 is 10. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to write our whole number. 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 5 is 10. So now they both have the same denominator. But before we can subtract, let's check our numerator and see if we can subtract that. We cannot, because we cannot take 8 from 5. We just can't. Not without getting a negative value, and we don't want that. We need a positive value, right? We can't have 5 minus 2, which we can do, and that be a positive number, and then end up with a negative number as a fraction. That just doesn't work out. So what we need to do is borrow again. So we're going to borrow 10, and the reason we know it's 10 is because that is the number of pieces a whole number has to be in order to move it over here. If we have 10 pieces, we move it over here and make it a whole number, right? So this becomes 4 because we took 1 away from here and put it back in the numerator. So now we have 4 and 15 over 10 minus 2 and 8 over 10. Now we can subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2, and 15 minus 8 is 7, and that is over 10, and that would be your answer. If you have any questions at all about subtracting mixed numbers, please let me know. I will say this, there is an alternative to subtracting mixed numbers. Let's take this one for example. If you have 5.5 and then you're subtracting 2 and 4 over 5, one of the things that you can do is turn this into a improper fraction. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1, that's 11 over 2. And 2 times 5 is 10 plus 4, that's 14 over 5. Okay, we have to keep the right denominator. But because they don't have the same denominator, we still have to multiply by the opposite denominator. So this would be 55 over 10 minus, and 2 times 14 would be 28 over 10. So if I subtract 55 minus 28, that is going to be 27 over 10. Well, guess what? If we turn this back into a mixed number, we still have 2 and 7 over 10 because we took 20 away from it. So it is whichever one you think is easier to do for you. If borrowing confuses you, turn it back into an improper fraction and then do all your math that way. Then there is no borrowing because all of the value of the whole number is in the numerator. And you don't have to borrow. You just have to make sure the denominators match. And then when you get to your final answer, you can put it back into mixed number format. So there is that. So if that blows your mind, stick with this. If this seems really hard and this makes more sense, then do this. Either way gets you to the same answer. All right. That's all I have for lesson 35. I'll see you in lesson 36.